Hi, I'm Thomas Boucher, and this is part 2 of my key swivel. So if you missed the other part of this video, I will put a link to that above so that you can go check that out so you can get caught up to where we're at, because this video is going to start exactly where I left off in the last one. So pause it, go check that one out and come back if you want to catch up on that. Otherwise, let's get into the build. So after all of that filing, this is where I've been left off. Got the turned part there, it's all hand filed. I'll probably use a little bit of refining, but it's pretty good for right now. So that goes in the top of this ring, and that'll be able to turn this way. I also started cleaning up the belt clip, and so this mass at the bottom here will get rounded over as well, like this piece, and those will be riveted together. Once that's kind of where I want it to be at, then I can start working on the key ring again as well, because that still needs to be filed up. I also have to put a spring on it, but for now I think I want to focus on getting this piece fit to the top of that swivel. I think the first thing that I need to figure out is the location for the slot I need to cut so that these two pieces can hinge together. I want to give myself a mark as to how far down I need to cut. I can always file that groove deeper if needed, so I want to make sure I don't go too far with it on the initial cut. Now I've got to get that little slug in the middle out. While I've been chiseling that little center part, I'm noticing it kind of, this big mass bending back and forth, and I got to be careful that I don't bend that too much, so I'm going to see if I can cut it out a little more. I don't have my jeweler saw, otherwise I could probably just cut that off. I think I'm just going to keep chiseling it, but just kind of be careful. If I've got a nice, really detailed piece that I don't want to mar up in the vise, I grab it with some wood. You won't destroy what you've already filed into it. So that's in there pretty solid, and it's just crushed between two pieces of wood. After filing that for a while, I was able to get these two pieces fit roughly together. It only pivots a little bit. It should be able to probably freely swing completely. So I need to do some more file work and get that swinging better, but then I also have to refine the shape of this anyways. So at this point I've got all the pieces basically fitting together, except for the spring, which I haven't made yet. None of these things are riveted, so they're kind of loose on me, but you can see the belt clip unbent, it's swiveling or pivoting on the top there. then you can see that it also spins the swivel part. And then there's also the clip for the key. Now one of the next things I need to figure out on this is the spring. And I've actually saved some old rake tines. I think it's going to be perfect material. I don't know what it is, but this stuff definitely springy. I mean, if you've ever used a metal rake, you know that you can really flex on these things, and they pretty much always straighten out. So I'd saved a bunch of these a while back because I figured they'd come in handy for little springs. So I'm going to try that out. I believe that they are pretty hard, so I think I'm going to have to anneal this to be able to drill a hole through it and then try re-hardening it. So hopefully I can do that successfully with this stuff, because I don't know what it is. But I imagine it is some kind of spring steel. And I do have a handful of them, so if I screw one up, I'll have plenty more that I can kind of play around with. So I'm going to heat this up with my torch and just kind of let it sit in the coals over there and cool off. Hopefully that will anneal it enough that I can drill a hole in it and get it cut to size and everything. And then we'll try re-hardening them and see how that goes. At this point I need to also start addressing the key clip. I need to file it up, and this top portion needs to be kind of a domed oval. Also I need to clean up the clip. It's not perfectly symmetrical. I never expect it to be because it's handmade, but I can see that this side's rounder and this side's a little pointier. And it is kind of hard to tweak this side because it has that joint in it. I think I do want to try addressing that some. I'm also a little nervous about screwing things up and getting it way out of whack. I know I can always get it back, but I really want to try to avoid that. I also kind of want to file up this top part before I put the actual pivoting clip part in, because there's a little tiny pin that I'll rivet in place. And I don't want a huge countersink to try to fill up with that rivet head. And I'm not sure once I file this how much of that I'm going to lose, so I may need to re-establish more of a countersink head after filing some. Because if I were to just rivet the piece in now and file everything away, I might get rid of the rivet heads. I may change my mind on that just for the fact that right now it's flat, which means it's easy to lay on the anvil and hammer the heads to get it to rivet, whereas once it's ovoid, it's going to want to rock on me. It'll be a lot harder to kind of rivet it, so now that I have the piece of material for the spring annealed, I need to determine how long it should be and then start working on getting that fit to this. So that means I need to obviously get it cut to length, but I also need to drill a hole through it for where it's going to be attached, and it'll be attached with a tiny little rivet. So I'm not entirely sure how long it needs to be, but you can see this hole right there. That's where it's going to be attached, and it's going to come over and push on this side. So when you push this in, that spring will be compressed and it'll push itself back out. This stuff's really thin and soft at the moment, so I am working it cold. And since it's a spring steel, I'm going to temper it. Maybe that's an issue. But I'm just going to try it out. I think something like that's what I want. It's a little too long right now, so I need to mark it for cutting it, but I also need to mark where the hole needs to go. So I've got my little spring. I've got it just kind of quickly ground a little bit, and I've got it marked for drilling. So now I need to go put the hole in it. So I'm going to attempt to harden and temper this spring. I've got that spring in there, but I think the geometry on it may be just a little bit wrong. It's not quite working. So I think what I decided is I'm going to take this spring off and make a new one. So the issue is it doesn't curve enough on the end here, so the very edge of it's kind of sharp where I filed it, and instead of it pivoting up nicely and compressing, it's digging in and not really allowing this to swivel. That seems to be working better. Doesn't open super far. I think it might be opening enough. I don't know how much the original is opening because I've never seen one in person. But that seems to be opening enough that a key can make its way on there. So I think the next thing is going to be attaching this piece because I need to be able to rivet the bottom. So I need this piece out of the way. So I can't attach that one yet until this is attached. So I think what I'm going to do next is actually dome this side as well. You can see I did this side and I got really close up to where this goes through. And I want to be able to round this side up without having to worry about filing into this piece. I don't think I'm going to go far enough that I'll lose these countersinks like I mentioned before. I think I'm ready now to attach this swivel piece. I'm going to refine some of the stuff after the fact, but I really just wanted to get up near and around that, sort of filed up as best I could. So at this point I need to cut this tenon down and rivet that over. It's not a super tight rivet because this still wants to be able to pivot and spin. I did countersink that hole some, so that way there's a little bit of room for that material to kind of go, because I don't want it sticking out too proud. So I want to make sure that that still stays loose like that, but I need to try to tighten it up some so it doesn't really go up and down too much. It hangs up in a couple spots, but I think that'll wear itself in. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to put some paste wax on it, and that should help lubricate things and make it move a little smoother. I'm just going to do a little bit more cleanup. So I think I can rivet this piece on now, and I'm pretty excited about this because it really feels like this thing's coming together at this point. I got the pieces attached. I've got it roughly cleaned up and filed, and I think at this point it's probably good enough that I could start sanding it. I did just file in a tiny little detail right here that I think will show up a little bit better once stuff's cleaned up more. I got quite a bit of work done last night, but there's still a bit of cleanup that needs to happen on this. Now that I have the keyring done, I need to finish up the belt clip before I attach it, because I need to bend the clip, and while it's flat it'll be a lot easier to clean it up a little bit more. What I'm doing here is draw filing, and it's a good way to kind of get a good smooth consistent striation of the file marks and a flat surface. Like filing, you only want to push one direction. So when the handle is on your right side, you push. If you have the handle on your left side, you can pull. And I tend to like to push, but sometimes it's easier to get in a tight space, like up here at this collar, if I pull it. So I can really make sure I'm getting up into there. Mainly what I'm trying to do is I've got this one spot where some scale was hammered in there. I'm trying to get rid of that as best I can. I also don't want to get this piece too thin, so I may have to live with it and just kind of sand it out a little bit. So I've got that pretty well cleaned up. I never try to get these things like mirror finish. I don't love that process, and I kind of like the tool marks, the file scratches and stuff. So really what I do is just try to even it some with the sandpaper. So my next thing is I need to put my touch mark on it. This will be the front side, and about here it'll bend over and this clip will come down. So I gotta figure out where I'm going to put my touch mark. I've got a couple of pieces of scrap material, so I'm going to try stamping those, and then like I said, I can kind of hold it in place sort of like a mock piece. The one thing I tend to like to do on most of my stuff now is to put a date as well. So I need to be able to have room for the date as well as my signature. And when I say the date, I typically just mean the year. I thought I was gonna like the inside of the clip better, but I almost might like the back of the coin better. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the inside of the round coin here. So right now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to lay this out. And I mean, I know that I want my name going horizontal across this direction with the date underneath it, but I'm just trying to make sure I get them pretty well centered and where I want them to be up and down. Because I want it to look decent, even though it's to the back side, you won't really see it. For some reason, on the beginning of my name was stamping better than the end of it, so I had to keep going over it. Now, I need to try and do the date. Same thing with these little letter stamps. It's hard to line them up well. I think what I'm going to do is start in the middle. There's a little bit of a scuff mark on the back side, and that's fine. I can just clean that up. But I don't want to do that until I bend this, because I'm sure other things will get a little bit marked up. So I'd rather clean that after the fact. So there's the touch mark in the year. So that'll be on the inside. So this belt clip is going to get bent back down and around. And I don't want to just bend it and have it straight. I want it to have a little bit of a curve to it. So that way it's easier to kind of slide onto a belt or whatever. So I'm going to give it just a tiny bit of a bend. I'm not quite sure how much I want. There's a little bit there. I'm not even sure if that's enough. Maybe I want the tip to bend just a little more. I don't know. That seems like it should be alright though. Maybe if I bend it just a little bit further up. And I am planning on bending this cold, so hopefully it doesn't break or anything. I don't think it will. And I'm also kind of hoping that where it bends, work hardens a little bit. That way this has just a tiny bit of springiness to it. So I was hoping to be able to wrap this with the bender here around this little pin, but it's such a small piece and I don't have much hanging out over that I don't know that that will work well. However, this does kind of clamp it in enough. I think I can do it by hand. It's such a thin piece of material. Just need to make sure I'm going to end up bending it where I want it bent. It's going a little crooked on me. Need to set those just a little bit deeper, but it's getting tight. So I want to make one of these for a really long time, and I'm glad that I finally did, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. So you can see that the top part of it swivels really well, and the belt hook can pivot on top. The clip opens just like a carabiner, and of course it can hold keys. So one thing that's really interesting about this is that if you had the belt clip on, I guess say your waist, your belt, pocket of your waistcoat, whatever, it pivots up 90 degrees and then it completely swivels all the way around. So I guess in theory, you could unlock your door without even taking this key off, which is kind of a cool thing. It's just really neat, the functionality to it. So I'm still pretty new on YouTube, and I'm trying to make my videos as good as I can, and I'm trying to continuously get better and better at them. So I wanted some feedback on what you thought of this one. I know that I had some really quick hits on some of the processes that I was doing, and some of that's because I don't feel that I need to show a whole lot of detail on those, but the other reason is I believe I had about 13 hours of footage for this whole project, and I cut that down into 2 videos, but in order for me to condense that down so much, I have to cut out so much stuff and really limit what I'm showing. So I want to know what you thought of that. Did I leave out some stuff you wish would have been in there? Do you have some questions about some stuff? But I'd like to have some feedback and get an idea of what you guys think of how I've been editing this one, maybe some of the other ones as well. So I really appreciate that. So if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. As always, in the description below, I will have links to my Instagram and my website where you can check out some of my products. Please consider subscribing to my channel, as it really helps me out and it'll keep you up to date with other projects just like this one, as well as where I'm at in my shop build. Thanks again for watching. Bye.